adulterous in a time when adultery was a taboo for women, not so much for men. But so I'm interested in exploring the other half of history, the half that has been ignored, and that's the women's stories.
And are these people, Penelope, Arbella, that you personally admire?
Yes, I mean, Arbella, she's a funny one. She's difficult to admire. So she was a challenge to write because she's this at once very vulnerable, but the way I've characterised her, very sort of prickly and difficult. And she was a bit crazy as well. She, sort of driven crazy by her situation. Also, there's a theory that she had an illness that gave her periods of madness. And she was a prolific letter writer. So we have a whole archive of letters that we can read and to access her actual voice, her inner thoughts. And some of the letters really describe those periods of madness as well. Some they begin in this beautiful italic and they're also quite formal, and then she goes off and they start to become more and more fantastical, and the writing becomes more scrawly and crazy. So that having those artifacts helps to characterise somebody. But on the other hand, those letters, they're not a picture of a really sort of charismatic and alluring woman like Penelope Devereux. She's just this sort of incredible kind of firebrand. Whereas Arbella, she's more quiet, she's very self-destructive. But I think for me, there seem to be a lot of parallels to some modern women's lives, that sort of intensely interior, introspective character. So that interested me.
And when you're writing a novel like this, where is the line between historical document and piece of fiction? Well,
that's a good question, and one that I ask myself a lot, and other people ask me. I see the history as a kind of framework on which I hang my characters. And my characters, with someone like Arbella, we know what happened to her. We know the basic bones of her story, and we've got these letters, so we know quite a lot about her. Compared to other women of the period, we know a good deal about her. But we don't know who she was, and so that's where the fiction is. It's, for me, all in the characterization, bringing those people to life from the inside out, but using the facts of their story as a kind of framework for me to tell my story. So it is fiction, absolutely. And in fact, my other narrator in The Girl in the Glass Tower is another woman, Amelia Lanier, who I call Amy in the story. She is a real figure. She was a poet and another of these women that really interests me. But we know so much less about her life. So the story I've given her has a very few facts of her life. And then I've invented a story to tie it into Arbella's story, because they're stories that, in terms of what I'm trying to say, they're two women's stories that chime together. So I've woven them together in a book. But that is a fiction. Whereas the historical facts and all the shenanigans at the court and what actually happens to those two characters, that is historical fact, although, that can be spurious at the best of times anyway.
And there's so much written about this period of history, whether that's as a history book or as historical fiction or even in television. What is the allure of this particular period? Yeah,
it's a question a lot of people are asking at the moment. I've just been on a panel at Birkbeck College. We're doing why it's called Tudormania ? And why are we so fascinated? And I think there are lots of reasons. I think, particularly the Henry VIII and his wives story. I mean, it's extraordinary how much cultural production there is about those stories. I think BBC One are doing a Henry VIII's Wives now, a documentary series, and Channel 5 have just done one. Other authors continue to return to those 6 women. I think Henry's story is like he's like a Bluebeard character. There's sort of something mythological about him. And, he's the kind of charismatic psychopath who murders his wives. It's a story, you think if someone was pitching that, you think, that sounds like a good, juicy story. So I think that's why people